So today we're going to look at some of the most well-known money-making methods in the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm going to show you exactly what the methods are, how to do them, how much money you can expect from them, and I'm also going to rank them in order of best to worst. So the first method we're going to look at is gold coin farming. So I personally will put gold coin farming in D tier. Now the reason for this is that although you don't need to use a guild trader and it is pretty easy, it's that you just don't make a lot of money, okay? So if you're really new to the game and you really don't know how to use guild traders, and you really don't know what you're doing, and you need a couple of coins to buy one or two things from like a normal store, sure, you can do this, that's absolutely okay, but I just would recommend kind of not doing this at all, just because it tends to be not good XP and it tends to not be good gold, so almost no point in doing that one. If you did however want to try this, you usually go to the Filements up in Reaper's March and you can farm all the little Imperials in there and they'll drop quite a bit of gold. So the next method is going to be material farming, okay? So this is pretty mid, so I would say that it's a really consistent and really easy to get into method, but it doesn't make you that much money, and I think your time could be better spent in other areas or like develop into other methods, okay? So for material farming, I generally recommend just doing the rubidite and platinum farming in the Knarthe's Roost. Okay, you just follow a little loop, you get the materials, you can sell them all raw on a guild trader, okay? So you can make about 150k an hour here if you're on Xbox, maybe a little bit more on PC. So it's an okay method, it's a good beginner method, but I personally only do it if I'm extremely bored or like waiting for a dungeon to load, something like that. I really wouldn't do this as a standalone method. So our next method is going to be motif farming. So I'm again going to put this in B tier just because it's kind of hit and miss, okay? Basically, if you don't know how to farm for motifs, it's just you complete a dungeon without particular motif style drops, and then if you do it on, for example, veteran hard mode, you're guaranteed a motif drop every single time. Basically, depending on the length of the dungeon and the cost of the motif and the chance for you to get that motif, it can be a good method. It can also be a very bad method because you could be using a style set that has maybe one or two expensive motifs that are a couple of 100k and the rest of them are maybe 20-30k. So it's kind of hit or miss, okay? I would almost only do this method if you're pairing it with the mask farming. Generally, when you're farming motifs, you can make like 100-200k an hour. It's hard to put an exact figure on it just because you either do get lucky or you get unlucky and you're either completing a dungeon quickly or you're not, depending on skill levels. So our next method is going to be mask farming. Okay, now I actually think this is more of an A tier personally. So I think that although you don't always get the mask and it is kind of luck based, it's kind of similar as motif farming, but I'll put this a step above because, for example, if the Baron Sodras mask comes out, you have a chance of getting a mask that's worth like 2 million plus easily. And you know, even other masks are still very expensive. I know I sold Vycosa masks for like 1 million coins on Xbox. So it's just things like this. They're very expensive. They're very rare. A lot of the times you're going to be able to do a very quick dungeon. Okay, so it makes it quite easy. And you can also be getting your motifs at the same time as farming for the mask. So you're always getting like the motif baseline of money plus the additional ability to get a big drop of the mask. So that's why I think it's slightly higher than the motif farming, just because it's kind of double tiered, okay? But mask farming, it's hard to put a price per hour on it, okay? So for example, I've done a dungeon before and got the mask the first run. I've done 20 dungeons and got no mask, okay? So really hit or miss, but I think it's an A tier generally just because of the potential outcome and the price of the masks. So our next method is going to be daily crafting rates, okay? Now, everyone and their dog has told you daily crafting rates is a good money making method, and it is. Now, there are maybe one or two better money making methods, but this is probably the easiest and most consistent money making method to do. And the thing is once you set up the first time, you're pretty much able to guarantee a certain amount of coins forever without having to put any more investment in. For doing your crafting rates, I think if I remember correctly, it's like 1.5 million coins on Xbox anyway, for an entire week of doing rates on 20 characters, okay? Like obviously if you have half of the amount of characters, you're going to make half of that amount of gold. If you do it half the days, you're going to make half the amount of gold, okay? So keep that all in mind, but you basically have the ability to make over like 1.5 million gold just by doing like an hours or less work every day on your character. Really easy, there's no skill required, so I just think it's an S tier for everyone. It also gives you the chance to get some kind of rare drops, like you can get the master crafting rates, and one of these master crafting rates could sell for like 50k 60k, so really easy there to make additional money as well. The only thing about this method is that it does take a little bit of setup, a little bit of investment initially, but it's one of those where if you're intended on playing the game for a little while, or if you already have a lot of crafters, this is something you should definitely look into. There's definitely just a lot of gold you're leaving on the table if you're not doing it. So next one we're going to look at then is crafting, okay? So I'm going to put crafting into B tier because it isn't as good as what it maybe used to be, okay? So I'm finding that back in the day, crafting used to be a really good money maker. You used to be able to put Nirnhorn armor and weapons and things like that up. You used to be able to craft sets, you know, or like 9 trade sets, things like that, PvP sets, and they would sell quite consistently. And you get quite good money from them. But I feel like the method as time's gone on is being quite saturated because so many people are selling like your glyphs and your armors and upgrading things to gold, all that kind of stuff, to where it's not necessarily a great method anymore. But it is still decent, okay? So if you have open trading slots and you're making some Nirnquark's weapons, you're probably making like 5k margin per thing that sells. If you're making a golden glyph, again, you're investing like maybe 3-4k to make it and you're selling it for 6-7k. So just really something that you're doing to fill slots at this point. There's not really a particular thing you can craft that's going to make you know, like 100,000 coins anymore, but it's like one of those passive incomes whenever you're, you know, just having open trader slots. So the next method we're going to look at is PvP. Now, I personally, I'm going to put it in C tier, just because I think unless you're like top 5% of PvP players, that you're really not going to make enough money to warrant putting the time into PvP as opposed to something else, okay? Now, I just want to keep in mind that I am looking at this exclusively from a money-making perspective, not from a having fun playing the game perspective, okay? So if you really enjoy PvP and that's the reason you play and that's the main thing, of course this is good passive income for you. But if you're not a main PvP player, I wouldn't necessarily say go and spec a PvP character and try and make money this way. Just because it's quite hard. You don't actually get that much AP for taking a keep. You don't get that much for a kill. It kind of just accumulates over a lot of time. And I find you could definitely be doing something like your daily raids or mask farming, which would make you a lot more money over the time period. So obviously you can get lucky as well if you spend your AP on these little reward boxes and you get a rare staff or you get like a rare piece of armor. Things like that, they can sell for a couple of 100,000, but the amount of junk to good items in those boxes is quite high. So it's probably like a 20-to-1 of you getting the item you want and a trait you want, being able to sell it on, okay? My personal opinion, I would just not do PvP for money making methods. I would only do it if you enjoy PvP itself. So the next method is going to be trials. And again, I'm going to put this in D tier. Now, you might be surprised, but I feel like unless you're, again, like in the top sort of 5% of people doing trials, maybe even less than the top 5%, okay? You're not going to be clearing the trial in a consistent manner or in a quick enough manner as to where you're going to be able to rely on the rewards. You're really not going to get that much money for the motifs because if you think of everyone who plays this game and does the trial on normal mode even, they have a chance at the motifs, so the prices tend to drop after like a week or two of the trial being out. So if you're at a period where you're not just right on release of a new trial, you're definitely probably not going to want to do this method. So there's only 2 instances really where you're going to make a lot of money from trials, and it requires you to be like top 5% or above in trials, okay? And that's basically completing VAS +2, okay? And the only reason you'll be doing that is if you can do like 5-minute clears, something like that, just really quick clears over and over again consistently with the same team, and you've blocked out like a 2-hour period to do that every week. Then you could be farming for the little room box, which is worth like 2 million coins. That's pretty good. But if you're not doing that, or you aren't selling carries, so basically that's taking someone who is maybe not so good at the game, but they want to get a silver skin or a purple skin or something like that from one of these trials for completing it, you can take a big sum of money off them. So for example, I think it's like 6 million coins to get a silver skin roughly, back whenever I knew what the price was anyway. And basically that 6 million coins would get split between the other 11 people who were carrying you through the trial. The wee guy would pay it and then they'd just all get that amount of money. So that was pretty good money if you could find this, but again, finding people to carry through trials is actually not that consistent. And finding a team who's good enough and also all available at the same time to farm for the rune box also tends to not be something that is really easy to come by. So I just think trials are not a good money making method. So the next one we have here is thieving. Okay, so I was like halfway between putting out the S tier, but I think I'm going to drop it down to an A tier. All right, so thieving during the first like week or two of a new DLC is the absolute best money making method in the game, bar none, okay? So whenever a new DLC drops, particularly if the furnishings are really, really nice and sought after, they will sell for multiple millions of coins. I'm sure you've seen my videos and other people's videos on these. But yeah, like some particular furnishing plans can sell for like 5 million, 10 million on the first day. And it's just a really easy way to take yourself from literally the poorest person to one of the richer people in the game. Just by looking at a couple of wardrobes. So this method literally is just go to the new DLC area, start stealing from some wardrobes and hope that you find one of the furnishing plans. Usually there's a video online to show you exactly where and how to do it. And yeah, it's kind of only an A tier because it isn't as great after the DLC's been out for a little while, and it's also, usually you will get something, but sometimes you could farm for 5 hours and get nothing. So it's kind of like, unlike the material farming, where you're guaranteed some money, the thieving's kind of like you're farming over and over again for a big payoff, which I prefer personally, but some people might not. So then we have questing. Now again, I was gonna put this in D tier, but there is like maybe 1 or 2 quests that are worth your time repeating. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. Now the only reason this is in C tier here is because there is a particular quest that lets you get a piece of armor called the Galleon Chain, and it can be worth, you know, a couple of 100k, and you can repeat that basically on 20 characters. So it's pretty good money in that instance. If you have a lot of characters and you haven't already completed the quest, you can basically go in and make multiple millions off getting multiple of these chains, okay? But after that, and at the point where you can't repeat the quest, there's really not that many more quests. You have any valuable rewards that I know of anyway. Maybe you can leave a comment down below if you know some, but for me, questing seems to give you like really bad rewards. They take a long time. You don't get that much benefit from them. So I tend to not do quests except for whenever I need skill points, basically. But as a moneymaker method, I probably avoid questing in general. Okay. And then last but not least on this tier list is going to be trading. All right. So I'm going to put that straight in S tier. I think you guys all know my feelings on it. So trading is by far the best method that you can possibly do in this game to make money. Reason for that is you could literally walk into any little guild trader and there could be an item up there for like 10,000 coins that's worth 5 million coins, okay? It's happened multiple times. People do it all the time. They don't know the value of an item they've got. They're a new player. They just maybe made a misclick and you're just there to pick it up, okay? There's also people who are in a rush for some coins, so they'll put things up for way below market value to try and get coins right away because they want to spend it on something else, and you'll get good deals that way. So a lot of the time you can find like gold materials like wax or tempered alloys for way below market value if you're looking, just because someone needs a quick bit of money for something else. There's also a lot of times where you go and look a little out of the way trader, like in a merc mine or something like that, and you'll find something like a second legion jack that someone's had on their character for, you know, 5 years. They've only just logged back in recently. They listed off for 10-20k and it's, you know, it's worth multiple millions. So this is literally the kind of thing you're looking at, and there's so much more to it. There's so many more different aspects of trading. You could, you know, buy, sell, you could price lock, anything like that. Just so easy to do. It takes almost no skill. All you have to do is have a vague knowledge of prices or what items are actually rare, and then you can just double check with a price checker and you just make all that money basically by doing nothing. So it would be my most preferred method. It's like almost exclusively what I do for my money making methods, and I just think it works out really well. So if you guys can think of any way better money making methods that I didn't put on this list, or you widely disagree with some of the placements that I have put here, let me know in the comments and we can discuss it. Maybe I've forgotten about a quest that's amazing. Maybe I think thieving's better than it is. Just let me know, okay? And if you enjoy watching this video, maybe you'll like this video here where I show you the top 5 most expensive items in the Elder Scrolls Online right now.